What's up, y'all? I'm Riley, and this is my new truck. And if you've been following me or my wife on Instagram, or you know us in person, you'll know that we've been a Jeep family for nearly 4 years now. We had a JK, then we had a Gladiator that was definitely overbuilt, kind of a rock crawler, and then we had our most recent Gladiator, which was a Mojave that we built out for overlanding. I've got a bunch of videos on that one, so if you haven't seen them, you can go back and check it out. The very first video where I introduce the Mojave, I talk about our philosophy for an overland build. And that's kind of evolved over time as our preferences and our needs have changed. The type of terrain that we like to explore, how long we like to be out on the road, etc. And if you watch the last video I posted, I talk about whether or not the Jeep Gladiator was a good overlander for us. And my conclusion was, yes, but not quite enough for what we want. So, enter this beast. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about this truck, why we got it, and kind of the direction that we're gonna go with it. Although for the big updates, you'll just have to follow this channel and watch it evolve from stock form to the dream overland rig that we have planned. So let's get into it. So first of all, you'll have to excuse the mess in the bed of the truck. Hanna and I are in the process of moving, and I'm gonna update y'all on that, but if you want a little preview, you're looking at it, so stay tuned for that. Back to the point of this video, Hanna and I have been overlanding Jeeps for the past nearly 4 years, and our setups have gotten progressively more focused on overlanding and more involved with our camping setup and longevity on the road. But in that time, we have morphed from people who are more weekend warriors or like a week at a time to people who want to stay out for a month, 6 weeks, 3 months, and so on. So to accomplish that, we have to work full time on the road. And while the Gladiator was great and we have no regrets at all with the experience with those trucks, it was just too small for our preferences, having to work in the cab while we drive, work at a campsite, and just live out of it. So that's why we picked up this 2022 Ford F250 Lariat. And it looks awesome, if I might say so, from the factory. It's equipped with the Tremor package, so I'll get into a little bit about what that means and what that includes. But overall, this is actually a pretty mid-level Super Duty, which is crazy to me because it is by far the nicest vehicle Hanna or I have ever had, and it's still pretty much just standard equipment, especially with that Lariat trim. So let's get into a little bit of the features, especially with that Tremor package, why we opted for that, even though it's a pretty pricey upgrade, the powertrain that we chose, and what we plan to do with it. So if you're familiar with Super Duties at all, you'll realize that this is not how most of them look from the factory. And that is thanks to the Tremor package that we got on this beast. So the Tremor package is focused on off-roading, but it's not quite as focused as something like the Power Wagon from Ram. And a lot of people asked us, why this truck instead of a Power Wagon? Are you considering a Power Wagon? And a lot of questions along those lines. So to answer those questions before y'all drop them in the comments, the reason we didn't look at a Power Wagon is because it is so off-road focused that it sacrifices a tremendous amount of capability in terms of payload and towing. And with the plans that we have for this truck, we needed the payload to achieve the vision that we have for it. So the Power Wagon was immediately off the table. We did look at GMCs and Rams. Personally, I didn't enjoy driving the Ram. I know that's very individual. I just didn't like it. I know a lot of people love the Rams, and I really wanted to love the Rams because I love the aftermarket support. I love the AEV, makes suspension packages for them. And then the GMC just it felt more like a car, and for how we want to use the vehicle, it almost felt like we were buying a pavement princess, even with the AT4 package, which is GMC's like off-road package. So we ended up with this middle ground between the Power Wagon and something like the AT4, where it is extremely off-road capable, still super comfortable and luxurious on the interior, great on the highway. So let's get into the Tremor package. I've kind of rambled here, but refocusing, let's get into the Tremor package. This is not an advertisement for Ford, so if you want to know the ins and outs of the Tremor package, I recommend that you go browse their website or search for a video that describes it in more detail. I'm just going to touch on the very basic elements that pushed us towards the Tremor over another package. So first of all, it is lifted from the factory. In the back you have blocks, in the front it is an actual suspension lift. You have upgraded shocks with more fluid, and I'm sure there's other aspects to those that I'm not an expert on, but again, search out your own information if you're interested. You get these nice black wheels. You get the Wrangler Duratrax from Goodyear from the factory. They are a 35-inch tire, a true 35. You get a locking rear differential. You get a limited slip front differential. You get increased water fording. All the breather hoses have been raised. All the Tremors, even the 250 like this one, are also equipped with a 350 rear end. So you get a beefier axle. With this, which is the gas model, we also got 430 gearing, which with the bigger tires and off-roading is going to be invaluable. I don't have to go down and re-gear it just to get that torque back, which is great. So those are the primary elements that pushed us towards this package. It is incredibly capable as is. We don't have to add a locker. The front is a limited slip, which is a huge bonus in the heavy-duty truck segment. And it feels like we can do mild modifications without having to go overboard to get that off-road capability. We're probably even going to leave the suspension stock for a while. We'll see how it plays out like we did with the Mojave, but as is right now, it feels ready to go. I've mentioned it a few times already, but we chose a gas engine for this Super Duty. The heavy-duty truck market is still dominated by diesel engines, and I totally get that. My heart was telling me, get a diesel, but my logic prevailed, and we ended up with Ford's 7.3 liter gas engine. And there's a couple reasons why, and I'm going to do a more in-depth video explaining my thought process there. But just to highlight, one, it's incredibly powerful as is. Two, it's around 10K less than the diesel, which upfront cost is obviously no comparison, but factoring in the time it would take to recoup that, it's just extraordinary, especially when, as Hannah would gladly point out, I have a track record of trading in vehicles every 2 years. So for me, that upfront cost was a huge deterrent, especially with how powerful and refined this 7.3 liter is. In addition to that, this engine is so simple, and I think Ford did that intentionally. I think they want this to be a reliable workhorse of an engine, and if you just pop the hood, which I will do in a coming video, the gas engine, you can look at it, you can reach everything, you could work on it yourself in the field if you had to. The diesel, this hood is massive, this engine bay is huge. Diesel takes up all of it, and you will be hard pressed to, in the backcountry, open up your hood and be able to diagnose and fix an issue unless you are far, far more experienced than I am. So that was the second reason. Third reason is weight. So the diesel is heavy. I want to say it's around 1,000 pounds more when you factor in transmission, engine, and everything that goes along with diesel components. Because we're going to be off-roading this vehicle, we wanted to keep it as light and as nimble as possible for a truck this size. That sounds counterintuitive. This truck is huge and heavy, but compared to the diesel, it is on a diet, a significant diet, and that was the third factor for that. And then finally, as I've mentioned, we needed payload. Because the diesel is so heavy, the gas tends to have higher payload capacity for similarly equipped trucks. So you take this, you take an exact same truck, but in diesel, this is probably going to have more payload. If the payloads are the same, it's because the gross vehicle weight has been raised for the diesel to give it that payload back. So those are our primary reasons for going gas. And as I said, I'll get into more detail as we continue this series with this truck and this build. One more question that I've been asked a lot about this truck is, if you're going to get a truck that's so expensive and so substantial, why not order one from the factory exactly how you want it? Because I'll be honest, I did give up some wish list items on this truck just so I could get it off a dealer lot. And the answer to that is twofold. One, the lead times right now on these vehicles are being quoted like 9 months. In reality, from what I've seen on forums and whatnot, people are waiting between 9 and 13 months. And with the used car market the way that it was, I wanted to get as much value out of both my Gladiator and Hanna's van, which is now gone, and kind of pounce on that opportunity because it was unprecedented used car values over the last 2 years. I didn't want to miss out on that, and while we did pay a premium just to snatch this up when it became available, I think that it was offset by the value that the Gladiator and the van held. Secondly, we have plans for some big trips and for some significant modifications that are on a timeline. We are working with some companies to get this rig ready to explore, and we couldn't wait a year to get a truck and put those companies on hold. We really wanted to make it work for us, but also for them. So we found this. It had the Tremor package. It had some of the things that Hanna really wanted, like heated seats and the 360 cameras, and we just went for it. Now, would I love to have like factory dual batteries, like the fifth wheel package, which adds some strength to the bed and already has the trailer wiring in there? Absolutely. But was it worth waiting potentially a year, and was it worth traveling across the country potentially to find one that checked all those boxes, which, by the way, was very hard to do in the kind of bare cupboard of today's new vehicle inventory. So we pounced on this one. It had the main things that we wanted, and we just went for it and said, hey, we've modified vehicles before. We will address any issues or any areas that it's lacking as we go. And we're really happy that we did, because we love this truck. So there you have it. This is our 2022 Ford F250 Tremor Edition. And I hope that you will follow along as we modify this vehicle, as we use this vehicle to adventure, and for more Super Duty content. We've always been a Jeep family, and Jeeps will always be dear to my heart. I really hope that we can one day have a second vehicle and that makes sense, and it will be a Jeep. There's no question in my mind. But I hope you stick around for this. I hope you stick around to see what we're doing with this property, and it's great to have you. So drop a comment below with any questions, with any comments, and I'll see you on the next video.